Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. Hi. Thank you three for joining me. This is my favorite activity of the day. It's when I get to be in a room with interesting people and I get to coach them. And I love coaching in a group. It's powerful coaching one-on-one. But when I put a group of people in a room together, when I'm coaching one person, I'm coaching everyone. You can't help but be coached in that scenario. And two, sometimes it's too intense when all the intention's on you. And when someone else is being coached, you can get distinctions and ideas and insights that can really shift things for you simply by being in the presence of someone else being coached. So let's play and see where we go. I also coach around insight. And an insight can happen in a moment. Life looks one way, something happens, and suddenly it shifts and it's completely different. Insight is often very silent. It's not like Archimedes discovering something in the bath and jumping out and saying Eureka at the top of his voice and running naked down the street. When a client gets to an insight moment, it's often very quiet and still. Or you hear this noise, and then they usually look away from you because they're pausing and their world has just shifted. And I put no pressure on myself to make you have an insight today. You can't do that as a coach. That's not a game I want to play. Sometimes the insights happen between the conversations, and they can be the most powerful insights. I call it gentle reflection, one of the most powerful coaching tools we have. Well, let's begin. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Rich.
Hey. So, Deborah, what would make this a really powerful conversation for you today?
Well, I've been giving it some thought before we got here, and I think that I would love to take a look at how I'm building my coaching practice. And particularly, so I just really started on my own back in November. But I've been coaching since 2016, but I left my full-time job in November. And it took a while for me to get any momentum, but I'm feeling it now. Like I'm getting new clients and I'm definitely feeling momentum. And now that I'm feeling momentum, I'm feeling fear. Like, what if the momentum stops? And I'd love to just look at that and explore it.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit because you sent me some information about you. Whilst this is the first time we're talking like this, I know that you were the COO for a very large nonprofit for 14 years. Yeah. You consistently built top performing teams. You helped generate $14 million of low-income housing tax credit for the community you're working with. You've done some extraordinary stuff in your past. Mm-hmm. And what we tend to do when we shift into coaching, because almost everyone who comes into coaching is not their first career, we dismiss all that. Mm-hmm. So I get that it took a couple of years to get momentum. You were a startup for a couple of years. Any startup needs a lot of energy. Most startups are started by teenage kids in their parents' basement for a reason. They can live on ramen noodles and they don't need much energy. They've got a lot already. You've been in startup mode and now you're feeling the momentum build. And here's where I get to mess with your thinking. It looks to you like since 2006, I've been building momentum and now it's starting to go. And how am I going to hold on to that and sustain that? And what I'm going to say is, well, you've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Years doing something extraordinary in the world. And it shifted slightly. It would have been exactly the same if you'd still been a COO, but someone had given you a completely new project you hadn't done before. It would have felt edgy, a bit uncomfortable. You weren't sure what you were doing. Might have taken a couple of years to get momentum. But you wouldn't have made up the same story like, oh, this is something new. You'd just have known, this is what I do. This is what happens.
Yeah, there's something that feels different in my brain about being paid getting a paycheck and generating my own income.
Yeah, who else gets that one? Yeah, me too. I was a high school teacher for 15 years. I didn't even get a paycheck, right? It just got wired into my bank account. And it didn't matter if I worked hard or I didn't. There were people who did not work hard in the educational world I was in, and they still got paid. I worked really hard, which is what I love to do, but it didn't matter what happened. I got the paycheck no matter what. And right now, it's amusing to me. If I go to my bank and say, I'd like to get a mortgage, I'd like to get a loan, I'm seen as a big risk because I'm an entrepreneur. Whereas if I worked in a corporation, there'd be no problem. Oh, what's your salary? Great. But here's the thing. You can lose your job in an instant in the corporate world. And if I want to create more money, I just think up a way to create more money. And so that's the game we're in. It's an interesting game if you want to have a practice with a few high-performing, high-fee clients, because you can have 3 months that feel great. You're getting clients coming in. Forget the high fees, modest fees. A few clients come in, you have enough to have a great lifestyle to sustain yourself. Mm-hmm. But then you might have 2 months when no clients come in. And what you have to do is to stop using your bank balance as a barometer for your emotions. Mm-hmm. Your bank balance needs to be a barometer for your actions.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when my bank balance used to be high, I'd celebrate, and then I tend to relax a little bit, and I'd get less clients coming in and less money until the bank balance hit a certain point. It used to be zero, and I'd panic. Then it got a bit higher, and a bit higher, and a bit higher. But whenever it hit this point, then I'd get into action again and start to do the work to create clients. Mm-hmm. But it would go low, and I'd feel overwhelmed or afraid and scared. And now I know, bank balance goes down, time to get in action. And what I also do is I know that I have to take money out of my account so it doesn't sit in front of me and I think, oh, it's great. There's money here this month. I can relax. Mm. It's not that you can't relax. That's okay. But I call it always be creating clients. It's not like the line in Glengarry Glen Ross, the movie, when they say, always be closing. Remember that movie? It's not that like high pressure sales, but always be creating clients is, I want to, on a regular basis, make sure that I have 2 colors on my calendar. I wrote about this in the book 7 years ago, and still to this day, I have red and blue on my calendar. If it's blue, it's someone who's a current client who I'm serving. If it's red, it's someone who's not yet a client who I'm serving. On a regular basis, my calendar is filled with making sure I'm serving people who are currently paying me and who are not yet paying me. Mm-hmm. If I continue to do that, I know money will come in into the future. You put energy out into the world, it comes back to you. And there are things I can talk to you about filtering, about making sure that the right kind of people getting onto your calendar. But on the highest level, that's what will allow you to relax and know that you can keep doing this. That momentum will sustain itself because you keep putting the energy out, it will keep coming back.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty cool. I mean, being in the nonprofit world and working in the community for so long, I know a lot of people, and so it's I'm not really using the prosperous coach approach. I'm just meeting with people as it occurs to me, and it has been kind of magical how, like I was just there's a group of women that I'm studying with, and we were together today, and one of them said to me, "Yeah, I sent somebody to you. Did she call you yet?" And it's like, oh, well, thank you for sending somebody to me.
I'll tell you a secret. That is the prosperous coach approach. Connect, invite, create, propose. 4 parts to this framework. Connect. It's not connect in order to invite them, in order to give them a coaching experience, in order to propose and get them as a client. We literally say in the book, only connect. The question you ask yourself is, who would I love to speak to? And that's what you're spending time with, people you love to speak to. And at some point they ask what you're up to, they get an experience of you, they trust you. That's why it's happening. It looks magical. It's not magical. It really works. You're being with people in a very genuine way. And all those coaches out there on Facebook and Instagram, posting all that stuff or wondering why they can't get clients, because they're forgetting it's a very human, relationship-based business.
Can I say something about that too? Because I think that's a really interesting point. Yeah. I feel like there's so much noise out there, online. And it sort of occurred to me, well, actually, when I started coaching people that were local, they really, really wanted to meet with me in person. And so it kind of occurred to me from that experience that I can be really local. I can be the person who's, I don't need to coach people online because there's 2 million people in this city. And if they want to meet with me in person, I'm right up the street.
It's beautiful. The only reason I chose not to coach in person when I started my coaching practice, because I have a high value on freedom and I love to travel. I didn't want to be trapped in one city. Then later on in my practice, I had 2 children and I wanted to be in one city, but I had clients from all over the world. So I just chose to use this medium and it made it easier for me. But I'm not about teaching people how to do it my way. I love that you're doing it your way, Deborah. That's awesome. Thanks. Let me come to Eric now. Thanks, Deborah. Hey, Eric.
Hi, Rich.
What would make this a great conversation for you today? How can I support you in this moment?
Honestly, pretty similar to Deborah. I think about a year behind her. So I'm still at my full-time job, but working up the nerve to quit to pursue, to build my coaching practice. I have a few clients on the side and it's a little bit terrifying to walk away from a nice, high-paying, stable job to trust myself, which I've never done before.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily think that you have to do that. It's one way to start a new business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I chose to do it. If I'm really honest, I'd lost my job 2005. And so I was willing to take a risk. I think that's one of the gifts actually of being fired. You're willing to take a risk. I'm in awe of people who say, I'm quitting, I'm leaving. It's one way to do it. You burn your bridges, you say, I'm committed. If you're that committed, you can really make magic happen. Mm-hmm. But it isn't the only way, and I don't necessarily recommend it.
So, it feels right. It feels right to me right now, though.
Well, let me help you. I get that it's in the cards, mm-hmm. but you can do some things before that happens to set you up for success, rather than waiting and hoping, and then that day suddenly comes, and then because what's going to happen is for the first time in your life, you're going to see that bank account that's always been used to going up, mm-hmm. going down for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. You'll be in startup mode for a year or two. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you can't make money quite quickly. Mm-hmm. Some coaches do. I've helped coaches do that fast. But it's that you're in the J curve of business. You're in that energy phase. It's an energy phase. You're under the line where you've got to invest. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I would recommend right now is, how many days a week do you work?
5 days a week.
Could you do in 4 days what most people do in 5?
Probably.
I mean, I haven't yet spoken to a high performer who hasn't said yeah to that. Maybe it's 4.5 to start with. But there's a way that you could start to cut down the amount of time you spend in your current job. Mm-hmm. If that wasn't possible, I would have said, could you block out 1 hour on a Saturday morning? Mm-hmm. And if so, or maybe you're going to cut down to 4.5 days a week, whatever it is, you block out an hour of time a week. And you say, this is client creation time. This is where I'm launching my coaching business from this 1 hour slot. You can create all the business you ever need by starting small.
Yeah, I mean, I've already effectively done that. I've been putting in several hours of coaching a week around my job, and sometimes taking calls from work because, like this one, I'm in a conference room at work right now.
Right. So you're already doing it. You're already
nobody noticed that I'm not working 5 full days. Basically.
Right. Exactly. I told you. You had some humility in answering that question, but yeah, you're already doing it. So, do you have paying clients right now? Mm-hmm. So, well, then let me ask you again. What can I do in this moment that would really be of value for you?
Even though I have paying clients, even though I have savings in the bank for 2 years, even though I have a wife that will support me and is an engineer at Apple, so we're fine, there's still terror around this move. And it's not logical. And so I guess try to help me work through those emotions of not trusting myself to do this is, I think, what I'm really hoping for.
Yeah. It's not logical. It's even more powerful than that. Logic comes from this part of our brain. It's coming from this part of our brain and from our body. Mm-hmm. It's very, very human, what you're talking about. Because throughout most of human history, if you had some kind of safe experience, whether it was a safe cave or the tribe you were in was safe, it made no sense to leave that safe space and go out into the dangerous world. Any of your ancestors who had a gene that said, let me take more risks than anyone else in my tribe, probably didn't pass their genes on. We are at the spearhead of evolution, and all four of us right now have a lineage of very fearful people, by definition. So every part of your body is screaming, this isn't safe. Mm-hmm. And I take a breath in that moment just to remind myself, yeah, I get it. It's a very human experience you're going through. Mm-hmm. You've set yourself up to be safe. Mm-hmm. And there are some more things you can do. And you can't do it logically. Because like I say, this is not the rational part of your brain knows you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. It's not that part of the brain that we're talking to in this moment. And one of the reasons when I'm coaching someone, I might coach in either the personal or the universal. Mm. The personal is where I might tell you a story, and I will in a moment, but the universal is where just understanding that level of human nature, that I'm not alone, that feels good to know sometimes.
Yeah.
In the personal, I remember when I was just beginning my coaching practice, had all the same doubts and fears as you, and I'd taken the risk of leaving my whole career behind and was really clear I didn't want to go back to it. And I had a coach work with me on my money fears of all the money running out. And he said, Rich, what I get about you is that really did happen. All the money ran out and you had to go and live in a homeless shelter. I give you about 2 weeks before you'd be running the shelter. And I laughed because I just knew the truth of it. It's like I could picture the signs I'd be putting up on the wall telling people what to do and how to run this and making it run better than it had run before. What happens when I tell you that story too?
I hear it, but it's still kind of, it feels like it's talking to that logical part of my brain. Like I know logically, yeah, okay, even if nothing goes, even if I don't get the number of clients I want and don't build the business, like I can do another job like the one I have now. Like that's logical, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, I still feel this kind of knot of like tension in my heart a little bit.
You feel it in your heart?
Yeah.
Will you put your hand on your heart right now?
Yeah.
And we can do it with him, but will you breathe into your heart, Eric? And this might feel a little bit strange, but if you're willing to, close your eyes. Keep breathing into your heart. And ask your heart this question. What do you need me to know right now? And then go still on the inside, because you might hear an answer, but you might also see or feel an answer. What do you need me to know right now?
That I'm safe.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. It's feeling safe.
Yeah. And I feel a shift in you as you say those words. And ask your heart the same question one more time. What else do you need me to know?
Not picking anything else up right now.
Yeah, because maybe that's it. You see, the job of your heart is, when there's a moment that's fearful, is to pump really fast and hard blood to your limbs so you can run or fight or freeze and hide away. It's doing its job. When it races like that, it's doing the job it's meant to do.
Mm.
And it also has a message for you if you're willing to listen.
Mm. Yeah. I'll have to spend more time listening to my heart, I guess.
Nice. Well, would you be willing to say, again, this might sound funny, but would you be willing to say thank you to your heart and say, look, I know you've got my back. I know you're doing the job that you're meant to do, which is to keep me safe. And between us, between my logical brain and you, we've got this.
Thank you for trying to keep me safe. And I'm working hard. All of us are working hard to try to make that happen.
Yeah. You feel different in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a practice that you can bring in. Look, I know, I'm looking in front of me, the notes you sent me, you've done some extraordinary stuff. You've been the chief of staff to the product VP of AdWords at Google. Mm-hmm. And what you guys have done together, you've grown the business past $100 billion. Extraordinary stuff you've done. And you also saw a difference you could make by doing work with individuals, or we call it coaching, right? Mm-hmm. Guiding them, leading them, supporting them, challenging them. And you've been doing it with high performers, both in Google and outside. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I love this field we're in. We make a difference to people's lives. And then they go out and there's a ripple effect out there. And you want to do more of it. And that's awesome. And there's a part of you that's trying to keep you safe. And you'll see this in your clients too, because they'll have big dreams and visions and things. And you better say to them, me too. I get it. I go through the same thing too, which helps people to realize, oh yeah, we're not, the difference between a motivational coach for me and a transformational coach is a motivational coach is up on a stage, giving the rah-rah stuff. And we're there next to them saying, yeah, me too. I get it. Thanks for being willing to be so authentic, Eric.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks. You just feel different in this moment.
Yeah.
I'll pause in this moment, let that integrate for you. Notice what might happen when I go and speak to Angela. You pop into your head, you want to analyze this and look at it, and was that silly? Does it make sense? And that's okay. Let those thoughts come. That's another part of your body trying to protect you. It's the thinking mind. And just notice it. Oh, there you go. Thank you. You're trying to keep me safe too.
Will do.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, Angela.
Hi.
Hey. Any insights from anything that's happened so far in our conversation?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I'm on this call with Deborah and Eric, because in some ways I feel like I'm perfectly situated between the two of them in terms of where I'm at right now. And, Eric, I was in your position about 2 months ago. And actually, when I initially sent in my application to you, Rich, I had said, I'm really afraid about leaving my job because I know that, I'm ready to get out of this and to be more into the coaching world and all of that. And I did. And my last day was 2 weeks ago. And now I am in this, the J curve, as you call it. And it's really interesting because I was reading my application and it's all of the thoughts and fears that I thought I was going to have, I don't have those. They're actually quite different. And where I am right now has been very interesting because I thought that I would have this fire under my butt as I go into this J curve, right? And I thought that I would be so excited, oh, now that I have this time freed up, it's time for me to step into my own thing. And honestly, Rich, I feel nothing. I feel bleh. And it's that scary for me. It's the apathy that's scary for me because I really thought that I'd be in this place of, I gotta quickly build my thing now. And it's causing me to question because when I initially wrote to you, I said, oh, I have this fear. I have this fear of, putting myself out there. And to give Deborah and Eric some context, I have been the strategic mind behind a lot of coaching businesses. And so it's a massive identity shift from me to go from behind the curtain to in front of the curtain by stepping into the identity of a coach. But what I've been feeling is that right in this moment, I don't even feel like coaching. And I don't know if like, am I burnt out? Am I scared? Or am I misaligned? Or like, am I not fit to be an entrepreneur, or am I scared to be one? Like, that's kind of the question that I'm sitting with right now, is like, does this apathy come from just misalignment? Does it come from being burnt out? Or does it come from fear that's paralyzing me? And I'm just trying to parse all of that out.
Well, let's find out. Thanks for being so authentic and honest about that. Tell me, do you need to make money tomorrow, or you'll be thrown out of the house, have to live on the streets?
No, I'm pretty comfortable for the next 6 months. However, it's interesting. No, I'm probably for the next 8 months to a year, actually. However, what's scary for me is I have this fear that if I don't do something immediately, like, I'm just going to become a couch potato and just like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm afraid that I was
waiting for you to say those words.
Yeah.
Because we have this fear, if we stop, we'll be lying on the couch, our tummy growing bigger and bigger, eating Cheetos, watching daytime TV.
Yeah.
And do you have any doubt, Angela, that if Deborah or Eric took time out just for themselves after a long career, that they'd end up like that? Like, do you presume that that's what would happen to them? Or do you have no doubt that when they're ready, they get back into what they love to do and making a difference?
No, I mean, I 100% believe that about them.
Yeah, about them, right?
Yeah.
So my experience of working with high performers is that we don't convert to couch potatoes. It just doesn't happen. We sometimes need to. We sometimes need to veg out in front of Netflix or lie on a beach for a few weeks. We sometimes really need it, and most of the time we don't let ourselves do that. I finished a 15-year career as a teacher, and I loved my career. And it ended suddenly because I was fired by a new boss who arrived and wanted her own team. But I took almost 2 years out. I didn't know how burnt out and exhausted I was. I'd worked for years in inner city schools, in teaching in Africa, setting up an international school in Southeast Asia. I was tired, I was burnt out, and I had no idea. I'm so grateful that happened before I physically couldn't cope anymore. I didn't get to that stage, but most of us do. You might need to grieve leaving an old career. You might need to take time to nurture yourself. You might need to take time to breathe and be out in nature. And we don't give ourselves that. And, I said, how long can you go? And it was 6 months, and it was 8 months, and then you realize it could actually be longer than that. And actually, all it would take was 1 or 2 clients along the way, and it could really stretch out further. So knowing that you don't need a client right now, you can breathe. Here's what I want to do with you. If I meet a woman, if I'm coaching a woman who has come out of a relationship and says, I want you to help me get into a new relationship, I put her on a man ban. Say, you are not allowed to date another man for a period of 90 days. And she freaks out. What do you mean? I told you I just want to get into a new relationship. That's why I want you to coach me. Nope, you're not allowed to. You're on a man ban. You've just come out of this relationship. You need space to breathe, to reflect. You need space and time for you. And after a moment, she breathes a sigh of relief, because it's actually such a relief to know that she doesn't have to get back into that dating game straight away. Now, what I know secretly is if she meets a great guy, she's going to break the rules. She's going to come to me and say, hey, sorry, Rich, I broke the rules. I'm putting you on a client ban. I'm putting you on a ban in making money. What that really means is that I know if there's a project that's exciting, it has to be a 10 or above, and then you can come to me and say, hey, I broke the rules, Rich. But otherwise, you're not allowed to say yes. If that potential client is a 9 out of 10, it's like, you know what? Let's talk in 90 days. If there's a gig that's offered to you, let's talk in 90 days. If it's a 10, you're allowed to break the rules. But you need time for you. You need space. You need breathing room. you need to relax. And I see Eric nodding in the corner of my eye. And this is what you'll need too, Eric, when you transition out. You've been doing a lot of work for a long time, making a big difference in the world. And it is time to receive for a moment in time. And you get to choose what that time frame will be, 90 days, 4 months, 6 months. Put a box around it and do whatever you want to do in that time, Angela.
I gave myself this ban and I only did it for 30 days. So it's I'm 2 weeks into it. And before I was ferociously, searching on, searching on various platforms for, okay, where can I get this job or this job? And I fully acknowledge the fact that what I want to do next. And Eric might have had a similar feeling of just I'm leaving this old job to take a chance on me. This is Operation Final Frontier, And so this is the business, right? This is the one that's been on the back burner for 10 years kind of thing. And so I fully acknowledge that as I witnessed this hole in my life, I'm I should just get something else to fill it and put Operation Final Frontier on hold for another 6 months. You know what I mean?
Well, I've got to mess with your thinking immediately.
Yes, please.
When people hired you to do the work that you did, did they ever say, I'm taking a chance on you, Angela. This is the final frontier. This is a massive risk and I'm really nervous about it and I'm taking a chance on you?
No. And I would not work for them if they did.
They got who you are and what you bring. And you knew that too. So you're making up this whole new story about now. It's now it's the final frontier. Now I've got to take a chance on me. No, you don't. If one of us was hiring you to come and work for us, you'd know how to make us have a business that thrives, right?
Yeah.
And you can do the same for a woman called Angela. But right now you can't because you don't have the bandwidth. You haven't even given yourself 2 weeks out of the 30 days. In those 2 weeks, you've already been looking for gigs and you haven't given yourself this time. And I get it. A friend of mine, super successful designer, designed a sabbatical for himself. He was going to take a whole year out. Planned it for a year. The year before, he started working only 3 weeks each month to get ready for it. And then took the sabbatical. And about 3 months in, we had a chat. He was traveling around the world and he said, I've been planning the book I'm going to write about this. I've been planning how I'm going to get clients out of this. And I haven't stopped. You've got to breathe. And that reminds me, I went to Sri Lanka years ago on a yoga retreat. It's when I was working in London and I went off to Sri Lanka for a yoga retreat. Within an hour of being at this place, I went to the guy in charge and said, I made a mistake. I need my money back. I got to leave. I can't do this. It's not for me. And he said, give us 24 hours. Don't leave yet. 24 hours later, I thought it was crazy. It was a mistake, but I had needed time to book flights and so on out. So 24 hours later, my nervous system had calmed down. And I realized I operate up here when I'm out in the world of work, and they were down here. And I couldn't match. And I'd gone down at least to here maybe. And I could breathe for a moment. And it's oh yeah. And I stayed for 10 days and I had an amazing time. It's time to slow down. You're not allowed, you've not only got a client ban, you've got a ban on going on LinkedIn or any of the websites you can look for jobs, maybe even social media completely, because you can't help comparing and seeing other stuff. Yeah. This is a time for you to have massages, go for walks, have a vacation, meet fun and interesting people. That's it. It's all you're allowed to do.
It sounds like a punishment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just literally thinking it's going to feel excruciating. Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah, it will be hard for a while.
Yeah.
It might be hard the whole time, but if this was advice for Deborah, if this was advice for Eric, that it would make sense for them. Mm-hmm. Deborah told you it took 2 years to build the momentum when she transitioned out from doing an amazing job in another field becoming a coach. Deborah, how much time did you give yourself to transition?
Well, it's a really interesting question because I didn't. However, the sense of freedom that I felt going from this big nonprofit with board members and community members and always trying to toe the line and having to ask permission for almost anything I would ever do, to the complete freedom of being able to do anything I wanted whenever I wanted, which included like writing letters to the editor and like calling up famous people and asking them for meetings. I never had permission to do any of that before. And so I went crazy, but I went crazy with freedom. So I was doing a lot, wasn't a vacation, but the freedom, unbelievable.
Nice. There's a distinction around freedom. There's freedom from, and there's freedom to. That old career, we want freedom from. Eric's in it right now, time to move out. That's why he's looking at that freedom from. There's freedom to that Deborah was just describing. Like, oh, now I can do all these things I'd love to do. But there's a third distinction, Angela, and it's just freedom. And what I'm proposing to you is about freedom. You know what? Maybe it's not even a ban, but it's a high filter. What if it was this? I'm only allowed to do things for the next 90 days that are a 10 out of 10 on the scale. If it's a 10, my God, I'd love to do it. Doesn't matter what it is. A job, a vacation, you can do whatever you like if it's a 10 out of 10. If it's not a 10, you've got to put it off for 90 days. If watching Netflix is a 10 out of 10, you get to watch Netflix. If going to the movies, my secret guilty pleasure is going to the movies in the middle of the day when everyone else is working. And my favorite moment is one of those rare times when there's no one else in the whole movie theater. It's just for me. I love those moments. What would be a 10 for you? Maybe that's the game you play. 90 days, only 10s.
Are you asking me what's a 10 for me?
I wasn't, but let's find out. Yeah, what would be a 10 for you?
I don't know. I love to cook. I could cook all day long. And I do love nature walks. I love to travel. I've lived all over the world. And in the past year, I've more or less settled in Austin, but I'm ready to, it's really interesting because the way that I got into my last full-time job was weirdly, and it's so interesting how this happens, but the way that I got into my last full-time job is that I had just quit my other job and I gave myself freedom for 2 weeks. And I just said, I'm going to go have fun. I went to Bali and I did the massages and the resorts and all of that, and not even thinking about anything related to work, just living my greatest life. And that's how I stumbled into finding my job that was in perfect alignment for me.
Here's the thing though, it's not weird and it wasn't stumbling. What happens when we're stressed and under pressure? Our entire body is designed to shut down and narrow our gaze, because for most of human history, stress and pressure meant you might die.
Yeah.
A warring tribe was coming, someone might attack you, a wild animal. Your system shut down. The top part of your brain is literally designed to stop working when you're under stress. So our gaze narrows. Again, you're going to fight someone, you're going to fight or flight, you're going to run away, your gaze narrows. You're missing opportunities all around you because you're under pressure. When you go and live on that beach for a couple of weeks, your gaze goes like that and it looks like, my God, it was so amazing. I got my dream job. Who knew? Those opportunities are around you all the time. Mm-hmm. You can't see them. This is the gift we give to our clients when we create that space for their gaze to go like that, for them to drop into their heart, for them to breathe. What looks like a miracle that shows up was there all the time. They just couldn't see it. I'm not putting you on a ban in order to stop you getting your dream job. This is going to help you create your dream clients and your dream job and your dream lifestyle.
Yeah. I believe that to be true.
Yeah. So you guys, that's the sound of insight. It's that stillness that Angela just dropped into. She's wondering what it might look like right now and thinking about it, but it's just that stillness, the sound of insight. Thanks for playing, Angela.
Thank you.
Deborah, is there another question? Is there anything else that I could do for you in this moment?
I'm just really struck by how we all seem to be right on the right track and exactly where we're supposed to be. Just, it's like filling me up.
That's sweet. Thanks, Deborah. How about you, Eric? What else is there that we could discuss, a question I could answer that will take you somewhere else, or are you there?
I really appreciated hearing you work with Angela, because you're exactly right. And it's funny, just this week I was talking with one of my existing clients to talk about going and building a business. And I was like, I have to get all these clients and like build my business up right away. It's like, stop. You're going to get clients. You're great at this. Wait for the right clients. And like, he reminded me that I was coming from a place of scarcity where the right clients were like, I need to take all the clients because they're scarce. It's like, you're going to be in a position of abundance. Like, there are plenty of clients out there. You need to pick the right ones for the life you want to live. And so just hearing that reinforced when you work with Angela is just very helpful. Like, wait for the 10 out of 10 and give myself permission to relax. I just have to add one more thing because it feels relevant. You mentioned like giving the time to grieve your career. And a different client of mine said, are you going to have a ritual to mark the end of your corporate life? And I was like, no. And as it turns out, I actually know a couple of designers who've been experimenting with ritual design. So I want to get together with them to design a ritual to mark this passing.
Nice.
So
nice.
So nothing more to ask. I feel like I'm just going to continue giving warmth to my heart and reassuring about safety and dwelling in that place.
That's beautiful. One thing I'd encourage you when you create your ritual is don't have it be too complete. And what I mean by that is my sense for you is that you're such an ideal person to be the coach for the people in that world that you've come from. You see their struggles, you know their pain in a way others don't. That sometimes when we leave a field behind, we want to be complete with it. And sometimes we know that field so well that we can be a gift to those people in a way that nobody else can. So I put some thought into the ritual that you're going to design. How clean do you want that cut to be? It will be clean for you to leave, but it might be that you still get to show up in those buildings. One of my clients, Mark Silverman, did over $90 million of complex technological sales in the corporate world and became a coach. It was only when he had this insight, and these are his words, I like working in glass buildings, that he realized he's meant to be in the C-suite. Those are his clients. He's writing a book called Mastering Midlife to work with executives who've got everything they ever wanted and still feel empty on the inside. And he likes being back there. Some people leave corporate and they don't want to ever go back. And I'm saying that for you because I have a real sense that there are gifts that you have because I know what you've accomplished, where you could be so valuable to very senior leaders in that world. And so take some care what that ritual looks like and how clean the cut is, clean enough for you to leave, but maybe there's a doorway to go back and help them too.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you three for playing with me. Thank you for trusting me. This has been really fun. I have no doubt that great stuff is on its way for each of you. I look forward to hearing more about what happens on your journey. Thank you, guys. For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvinc.com. litvin.com/oneinsight.